Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope, this time for June 20th through June 26th of 2022. As you could probably tell from the thumbnail, this is a pretty relaxing week, if I must say so myself. It's not that there's not a lot going on, but the things that are going on seem relatively easy and free-flowing. And so if you are looking for a time to maybe lean into relaxing a little bit and maybe not having things so super intense, this would be a really good week for it. Let's go ahead and start by putting up this week's highlights. The only things that are really going on this week is Mercury's going to be sextiling Jupiter, which is not anything new. We've had Mercury sextiling Jupiter now for a while, but it was Mercury retrograde applying to Jupiter versus this is Mercury direct applying to Jupiter. A little bit of a difference there. The sun's going to enter Cancer. I usually talk shit about like every single sign in every season. I love Cancer season. I really do. And so we'll be talking about that. And Venus enters Gemini. I mean, I'm a little biased because I have Venus in Gemini. So I personally love Venus in Gemini. Maybe some of you may not like it. Like if you have like Virgo or like Pisces, or I would say Sag placements probably like it, but maybe not Virgo or Pisces. Anyway, Venus and Gemini is still pretty fun, though. So, and the transits that we have with Venus and Gemini are relatively nice. So let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. On Monday, we're starting the week off with Mercury sextiling Jupiter. I actually ended last week's horoscope talking about Mercury sextiling Jupiter. So again, this shouldn't come off as a surprise to anybody. But as Mercury is sextiling Jupiter throughout the day on Monday, the moon will be conjoining Neptune before it ingresses into Aries later on that evening. So let's go ahead and pull up the chart. So the biggest thing here is, again, the whole day Mercury sextiling Jupiter. And what's nice about this is Jupiter is about, knowledge and growth and deeper spiritual meaning. And Mercury is about like rationalizing things and understanding things and being really clear about information. And as Mercury was retrograde in the same spot, I mean, Mercury's out of shadow now, thank God. I did not realize how hard Mercury was squaring Saturn on the North Node until last week when Mercury went into Gemini. I was like, wow, I feel better. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I felt that bad? Anyway, I feel much better now that Mercury's back in Gemini and out of its shadow. But as Mercury was retrograde in Gemini, sextiling Jupiter and Aries, it was this kind of rethink, right? Jupiter and Aries is very much, as I've been kind of saying, Jupiter being about spirituality, belief, optimism, gratitude, and it's in Aries. It's the sign of the warrior. This is about, attacking, identity, being defiant, confronting things. And I think as Jupiter's in Aries, there's this really big inflated sense of self, maybe even this inflated sense of what you want to do. And, that Mars-Jupiter conjunction, it was like really going big or going home, right? And as Mercury was retrograde in Gemini, it was like, it was kind of like, have you ever put together a piece of furniture and it didn't make sense, but then you looked at it differently and you're like, oh my gosh, this actually makes sense. And that's what that was a lot about. But now that Mercury is back in Gemini, out of shadow, coming back to the sextile of Jupiter and Aries, it's really clear that you can do something. Like Mercury sextiling Jupiter is like, yeah, this is working. Yeah, I can do this. And it's not necessarily like Mercury retrograde sextiling Jupiter and Aries is like, wait, I can do this? Wait, this is how you do it, versus now you've gotten the hang of it. Now you're starting to see things a little bit more clearly. And as Mercury sextiles Jupiter, I mean, these are also sextiles, by the way. In my course, How to Read Your Birth Chart, which the link is down below if you want to learn a little bit more how to read your birth chart and know astrology, I talk about the aspects. And one of the ways I describe the aspects is like a trine is like an overhand reach, right? Like let's say you're trying to pick someone up, like let's say they're crawling up from something, you're trying to pick them up. You do an overhand reach. There's a lot more strength there versus a sextile is like an underhand reach. Like imagine you're in I wish I could drop my microphone, but like imagine you're in like a circle holding hands with people. That's like a sextile. It's this underhanded, it's supportive. Or like if you're helping an old lady up a step, it's very supportive versus overhand is much more like, let me help you and bring you up. A sextile is very like, hey, let me give you a little bit of a helping hand. And Mercury is sextiling Jupiter, right? It's not Jupiter sextiling Mercury. So Mercury being about like our ideas, our mind, rationality, of course, it's going to be even more important to look at what house Mercury rules in your chart. But Mercury is kind of giving this nice little supportive boost to Jupiter and Aries. And Mercury is about, again, like understanding things. And so I think there's just a lot of clarity on what you're capable of doing, what is possible, or what you're aspiring to do. Because again, I think this is something else I need to talk more about. But what's important about this Jupiter and Aries transit is this isn't a Jupiter and Aries transit. This is simply Jupiter dipping into Aries and giving us context for what 2023 has. In 2023, that is when Jupiter fully goes into Aries and transits all of Aries. We are still technically, and this is one of my opinions, this isn't like, Jupiter usually is pretty one sign per year. And so this is still technically a Jupiter and Pisces transit, in my opinion, because Jupiter is going to come back to Pisces. So this is just a sneak preview of what we have in store for 2023. But anyway, also on Monday, the moon is going to be conjoining Neptune. And so as the moon's on top of Neptune, there is, I feel like a broken record a lot of the times because I got to explain these transits quite often, but the moon in Pisces is really reflective of our emotions and our feelings, and it's trying to integrate the two, and it's trying to, gain a sense of clarity. It's very sensitive. But the moon conjoining Neptune kind of brings this foggy illusion to everything. And again, it's one of those things of like, if you're going to sit there and watch a movie, you can't get all butthurt about, oh, that's CGI. Oh, that's fake. Like the whole point of like cinematography and getting the image right is to create a feeling. And so with this moon conjoining Neptune, I want you to think about your favorite movies or your favorite music and what feeling does that create inside of you? Because I think while we can all agree that it's a movie, it's fake, it's not real, we can still enjoy the sensation that it brings us. And so when the moon's conjoining Neptune on Monday, not everything's going to be perfect. Not everything's going to be, the way that you imagined it. But I think while Mercury sextiling Jupiter, there is this really positive, there's this positive reinforcement that's going on with your beliefs and your line of thought, like your inner monologue. And I think as the moon conjoins Neptune, it's trying to figure out all the specific parts of it. The moon conjoining Neptune is like kind of oversaturated in all the information. And I really think like turn your brain off, like lobotomize yourself for a minute and just turn it off. Just enjoy the moment. The moon conjoining Neptune is just, you don't need to think through everything. You don't need to understand why the movie is the way it is. Just enjoy the movie. Enjoy what you're seeing. Enjoy what you're experiencing. Let those feelings flow. Was that it on Monday? Oh, and then the moon goes into Aries, where when the moon goes into Aries, that is much more of like look, this moon in Aries transit is going to be much more about taking action and doing stuff. But the moon doesn't ingress into Aries until later on Monday night. And that is where it's going to be like, all right, time to take action, time to go. It's like one of those things like, this may not be related to everyone. After I'm done watching a movie, I'm always like, all right, I need to go do something, or I need to get my mind occupied on something. But as the moon goes into Aries, this is much more of a charge of an emotional charge of like taking action. But I really don't think that'll be going into Monday night. So Monday night will be kind of like a little bit, I don't want to say anxious, but just there's a lot of energy. But that brings us into Tuesday. On Tuesday, the moon is going to be conjoining Jupiter. The moon will be sextiling Mercury, and Cancer season begins. I love Cancer season. Get a big t-shirt. I love Cancer season. People are like, what? The moon's going to conjoin Jupiter in Aries. And I mean, again, this is Jupiter, right? Go big or go home. And it's in Aries. It's of the self. It's of confrontation. It's of identity. And I think as the moon conjoins Jupiter, there's really this, this is our first lunar transit to Jupiter in Aries since Jupiter ingressed into Aries. So now that we've gotten about 30 days or so of Jupiter in Aries, we have a better idea of what we're in store for. And I think as the moon conjoins Jupiter, there is this like positive reinforcement. And our emotions have to be invested into it, but it's like, oh, hey, we're doing this. Oh, hey, this is going on. The moon in Aries is going to be very confrontational about things, like wanting to be very sharp and very like, hey, I'm feeling this. Let me confront this. Hey, I'm feeling this way. Let me confront this. It's going to be conjoining Jupiter where there is this sense of like, hey, there's all of this space. Hey, there's all of this room to grow. I need to be like clear about it. But I think as the moon is sextiling Mercury, there is this kind of like, oh, wow, I'm starting to get it. Oh, wow, this is all starting to kind of make sense. And it feels good. It's all fire and air, right? Like, it's like, if you ever been nervous to like, I don't know, I would say go and socialize. Like a lot of you are probably not the most social people. No offense, but astrology community is a very certain group of people. But the moon conjoining Jupiter and Mercury, it's like, oh, you go to the club and you're like, oh, this is fun. People want to hang out. People want to talk. People want to socialize. That's what this is, in my opinion. It's kind of like, if you've ever been nervous to, like, I don't know, go and meet new people, then you meet new people, like, wow, people are actually really fucking cool, and like nice and want to enjoy things. Anyway, I think on Tuesday there is this like sense of like growing into something, right? Like, maybe the first time you do something, it's uncomfortable, but now we're kind of getting a little bit more in our comfort zones with it, and not in a bad way either, but like, this is becoming familiar. This isn't foreign to us anymore. This idea of this Aries charging, the sense of self, we have no restrictions to it right now. But then the sun goes into Cancer and we get the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. I'm basking in it. I love Cancer season. I think as the sun goes into Cancer, I mean, like the other day, I did a live stream on my Patreon and it was like 6 p.m. and the sun was still like high in the sky. I love it. I love it. And I think as the sun goes into Cancer, the sun is about vitality, right? The sun is about your identity and how you feel and energy and life. And even though, a lot of Western science and medicine wants to tell you that the sun is bad for you, it's actually not. I don't know if you've noticed anything, but all life on this planet is like the sun produces all life on this planet. So even though they tell you that don't go outside and to plop yourself with sunscreen all day long, don't. Go and enjoy the sun. The sun is important. And with the sun in Cancer, the sense of vitality and energy that you're getting, it's in Cancer. You need to focus on needs. What is going to make you feel good? We're getting into the dog days of summer, the long days where it's just enjoy the sunshine, enjoy what's going to make you feel good. And this is like sun in Cancer stuff versus the sun in Leo is like, be yourself, hot girl summer, city boy summer, whatever you want to call it. The sun in Leo is much more like pride, passion versus Cancer is much more of like nurturing and taking care of. And as the sun's in Cancer, it's like, what's going to make you like feel good? Like go and get some vitamin D, put it on your skin. There's a reason why warmth feels good on your body. And Cancer also rules things like the gut and you guys and emotions, and you guys kind of know that stuff. But I think as the sun goes into Cancer, it's like there is this light being shown on the Cancer part of your life. What do you need to feel good? What's going to make you feel more nurtured, more protected, more. And I think as the sun's there, it's like lean into that. What is going to literally make you feel more nurtured, protected, and trustful rather than feeling like, when the sun's in Cancer and you're kind of ignoring that, you're going to feel like shit. So anyway, really excited for the sun going into Cancer, longest day of the year. Enjoy the sun. We get to Wednesday. This isn't a big week, guys. Remember that. Watch this be like an hour-long horoscope, even though it's not that big of a week. Wednesday, the moon's going to conjoin Mars, and Venus is going to enter Gemini. Excuse me, I need to get a drink of water. It is really hot in here. I've got the AC blasting. In my last apartment, I had central air, so it was easier to cool the place versus I got a swamp cooler right here. It's a little hot, especially underneath all these lights. But anyway, I'd rather have the heat than the cold, to be honest with you guys. But I'm all fire and air. Wednesday, we get to the moon. Wednesday, we get the moon conjoining Mars, and Venus enters Gemini. Speaking of hot, the moon's going to conjoin Mars in Aries. Accidente. Accidents can occur on the moon conjoining Mars in Aries. With the moon conjoining Mars, you're going to feel a little hot. You ever been like, just like what I love about heat is for whatever reason, and I love that Mars rules this stuff too. It's like when you get too hot, you get pissed. Like, you ever been like regularly frustrated, but you're in the heat and you're doing something, someone bugs you, and it's just easier to be angry when you're hot. And I look at this Moon Mars conjunction of like, might be a little pissed, might be a little cranky. You might kind of be a little bit more sharp with your tongue. Typically you might be kind of nice to people. This day you might be like, fuck off. You might not be afraid to say that, which is fine. I think we need to have days for that. But I think if you are someone like me who needs to like control their anger and like not be so explosive, you should really be careful with this moon conjoining Mars because it's going to be easy to lean into it. I think healthy ways to deal with the moon conjoining Mars is really like, hey, you've got to be confrontive of what you got to be confrontive about. And you could say, what's that saying? You don't have to be mean. I don't remember what the saying is. Anyway, well, there's, treat people the way you want to be treated. And, confront things. Don't be afraid to say how you feel, but you don't have to be mean in saying it. You don't have to be antagonizing in saying it. And I think as the moon conjoining Mars, I think, like, in my opinion, if you're pissed off, let yourself be mad. Like, it's okay to be angry. In society, they want you to say that, anger is bad and You're not allowed to be angry or mad. You can only be positive vibes, only love and light. But then, of course, they tell you, on the media who to be mad about, and you're allowed to be mad at certain people in society, which is dumb. Stop being mad at people. If you're going to be mad, though, don't be afraid to express it. It's healthy to express your anger, because if you don't express it, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. And if you've got this negative energy, you got to do something with it, because if you just bring it inside, that's why people get depressed. That's why people hate their lives, because they just hold in their anger and not do anything about it. And it festers into things like cancer and other diseases. Literally, it does. So as the moon conjoins Mars, I think other healthy ways is like taking action on things. Like, again, like it's really hard to be angry after a workout. Well, I shouldn't say it's not super hard. You can still be angry after a workout, but it's much easier to not let that anger get overwhelming after a workout, after you go and do some yard work, after you're just out in the sun physically doing something. Physically do something. Get in the sun. And I think as the moon conjoins Mars, it's going to be easy to be frustrated. It's going to be easy to be angry and pop off on people. And that's okay. I just think, be aware of that on Wednesday. The other thing is Venus enters Gemini. I love Venus in Gemini. Venus in Gemini is like, okay, the 3 funniest things to Google about astrology. 1, looking up Venus in Scorpio. Venus in Scorpio is I feel bad for people who have Venus in Scorpio and Venus in Capricorn, because when you first get into astrology and you Google what it means, you look up Venus in Scorpio and it's like whore, slut, you just want to fuck and all of this stuff. That's so not true. Like Venus in Scorpio is like, I know more celibate Venus in Scorpios than I do like whore Venus in Scorpios. Maybe they had a whore phase, but it's not really like that, because Venus is about pleasure and Scorpio is like detriment. So there's this idea of like getting pleasure by going without pleasure. Like a lot of Venus in Scorpios like that stuff. Venus in Capricorn, I think it's super funny Googling Venus in Capricorn, because, they treat it worse than Venus in Scorpio, but I think Venus actually likes Capricorn. But it's the same thing with Venus in Gemini. They say like Venus in Gemini is like whore and this and that. And really Venus in Gemini just wants to socialize. It just wants stimulation. Venus is about fun. And Gemini, it's like, I need games. I need lights. As a Venus in Gemini, I feel most at home in a casino. Cigarettes, booze, lights, gambling, fun. Everyone looks good. That's the Venus in Gemini vibe. Venus is all about fun, expression, not even really expression, but like mostly fun, enjoyment, a sensation. And it's in the sign of Mercury, right? We're talking about like data, information, learning, socializing, communicating. So I think as Venus goes into Gemini, this is going to be much more of a focus on that stimulation, a much more of a focus on expressing yourself, having fun. We're getting all of these fire transits along with all these air transits. I think this is a time to go and meet people, go and have a fun time. Then we get into Thursday, and the moon is going to make an ingress. I almost said make a sextile to Taurus. The moon is going to ingress into Taurus and make a sextile to the sun. I typically don't really care that much about when luminaries are making aspects to each other unless it's like a full moon. But this is awesome. I really like this moon in Taurus going into sextiling the sun in Cancer. The reason being is the moon will be at its exalted degree, which is at 3 degrees Taurus, its favorite degree to be at the zodiac. The moon's favorite degree of the zodiac is 3 degrees Taurus. Just remember that. And the moon is going to be pretty much right there as it sextiles the sun in the moon sign. And so one of the reasons in like the ancient astrology, like the moon was exalted in Taurus is because it moves slower in Taurus. And there's this idea of like, if the moon is about like nourishment, and well, there was also this line of thinking that like the moon doesn't rule any signs, and technically the sun ruled Cancer and Leo, and the moon didn't rule Cancer. And the idea was like, why would the moon rule any sign since it moves so quickly throughout all of them? But in that same line of thinking, if the moon didn't rule Cancer, it was still exalted in Taurus, and that was because it slowed down and it like took heed of like everything that it needed. Like the moon in Taurus is like nurturing itself, saturating itself in good things, right? It was slowing down, and the moon moves so fast, and it's about emotions. Like we like when the moon is like, all right, let's gain a little bit of stability. Let's gain a little bit of like sense of ease here. And the thing is, the moon goes into Taurus. There's a great opportunity for that. yes, we have all this Aries stuff. Yes, we have all this Gemini stuff, but it's one of those things of like, you can be in the party and everything and just maybe take a second to just kind of recognize life's good. Things feel good. You feel good, and it's okay to go slow. It's okay to enjoy things. And I think as the moon sextiles the sun in Cancer, like, in my opinion, this is a great day. In fact, I was actually thinking about doing this. I've talked about this, about doing an astrology meetup in Denver. But I'm thinking about doing one with Dan of Cosmic Keys and doing one at like a park and it's no lectures, none of that boring stuff, like just hanging out with people that are into astrology underneath the tree at the park. And this wouldn't be the day for it, but this would be a good day for hanging out with people under a shady tree at the park with some picnic snacks and everything like that. This is a waning moon. Things are chilling out. We're going towards the new moon. Hang out and relax, honestly. Like, Venus is in Gemini. There's all this. This is one of those things of like, you know, as like I can be like, for example, when I'm around really quiet people, I'm the loudest one, versus when I'm with other people like me that are extroverts, I become like a very quiet person because I just love being around that stuff. Like, there's also a lot of introverts that just love being around extroverts, and it's like, that's how they get it. Like, this is a very much of a day of like being quiet and just enjoying all of the noise and the socializing around you. So I just, you know, on Thursday, just kind of lean into having fun and enjoying things. What was the other thing that happens on Thursday? I guess that's it, really. We get to Friday. The moon conjoins Uranus in the North Node. It really doesn't conjoin the North Node till way later. I need another drink of water. It is hot in here. You guys could probably see me sweating. I'm also wearing pants, which is probably not the best idea for heat. Oh my God, I'm like sweating on my shirt. Jesus Christ. Anyway, moon's going to conjoin Uranus in the North Node on Friday. And here's the thing. You know what's really weird about right now? If you guys have been watching me for a while, we've talked a lot about the moon. First, like, it would first square Saturn, and then it would hit Uranus, or it'd hit Uranus, then square Saturn. We have quite a bit of a gap in between that now. And the moon's going to literally just hit Uranus, and then it'll hit the North Node before it squares Saturn. But as the moon hits Uranus and Taurus, again, shake it up. And you win some, you lose some, right? You don't want to roll a 7. You don't want to roll an 11. If you play craps, making all these casino analogies with Venus and Gemini. I love craps. That's the only game worth playing at a casino, by the way. But as the moon conjoins Uranus, you win some, you lose some. And this doesn't necessarily look like either or, but something I just learned with Venus conjoining Uranus. God, Venus conjoining Uranus, as fun as it was, it's very like, Venus is like, but I want to feel good. Venus conjoining Uranus is like, let me go out of my way to feel good, even though, you know, pleasure isn't always necessary. I mean, we live in a society that's ridden with pleasure. We are, there are so many, well, it's one of those things of like, for example, I've been complaining about social media for a while, but like, why is it that, for example, on Instagram used to be enjoyable, right? Sure, you would get your dopamine hits from the likes or whatever, but now it's social media has found ways to hack every single little dopamine receptor in your brain to where it's just flooded. Like, Instagram and all of these, I mean, Twitter's the same way. Twitter used to literally just be like tweets in a certain order, but now it's like, you know, it's, you know, this person like this person did that. And it's hacking all of this shit in my brain that it's too much. It's so much. I can't even, like, I would love to be on social media, but you go on there and these websites are designed to hack every single little receptor in your brain to create all of these sensations so you get hooked and addicted to it. And it's just too much. Like, I really wish there was a social media that like went out of their way to not hack your fucking brain. It's like, I want my brain to be myself. You'll scroll on Instagram and all of a sudden you're happy, you're sad, you're angry, you're frustrated. And it's like mind control. It's not even your brain. You're not even choosing to do that. It's designed to fuck with your brain. I'm ranting about this because when we talk about like pleasure and Taurus and like Venus, it's like, it's addictive. And someone on my last weekly made a comment. They were like, because the North Node is like, in my opinion, the closest thing that's like addiction. And someone was like, Cameron, that's the opposite. The North Node is about like letting go, and the South Node is about like that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? The North Node is the dragon's head. It's this all-consuming thing. Like, you just want it, and you want it, and you want it, and you want it. And the South Node is that purge. So get this. Let me explain to you how the North Node and South Node work. There's such a good example going on right now in this world. There is a fertilizer shortage, right? Fertilizers made through oil and shit like that. That's a longer story. But because there's a fertilizer shortage, there is an increase in cow manure. Meaning, not an increase in cow manure. There's an increase in, what's the word? People want more cow manure because there's a fertilizer shortage. North Node and Taurus, we want more, but there is a manure shortage. South Node and Scorpio, there is literally not enough cow poop in the world and people need more of it. You can't make this shit up sometimes. You really can't. Anyway, I bring all this up because like this moon conjoining Uranus and Taurus and all of this stuff is like, you know, what we define as pleasure, what we define as nourishment too. I mean, it's the same thing. Like there's this whole, you know, Uranus and Taurus is so big about beef right now. Like when Uranus first went to Taurus, there was this big vegan movement and everyone was like, you need to eat your soy burgers and eat your plant burgers. And everyone's kind of over that now. And now there's this big grass-fed thing and, you know, the carnivore stuff that everyone's kind of getting into. And Uranus is just very like, you know, innovation and liberation and back and forthness with this Taurus stuff. And I just think the moon conjoining Uranus, it's in a fixed sign. Like the moon is exalted in Taurus because it's a fixed sign. It gives a sense of stability for a moment. But when Uranus is there, that stability isn't really necessarily easily accessible. In fact, it's not there at all. And I think the moon conjoining Uranus is like, hey, as much as you want things to be stable, as much as you want things to be a certain way, it's just not. And you're going to have to learn to go with the changes. And so that's going to create inconsistency. So I look at the moon conjoining Uranus as like, sure, you can hack your way into doing better stuff, but also there is this sense of like, you know, there's just going to be some inconsistencies and you're just going to have to live with it. The moon in Taurus is very stubborn about that. But, you know, that's just how life kind of goes. And so I think on Friday with the moon conjoining Uranus, I think ways to lean in it. Like if you're looking to just do the same thing and never, ever change, I mean, you're in for a really hard time. But don't be afraid to lean into the change. Do something new. And maybe it's not forever, but just try it. Then we get to Saturday. The moon will be squaring Saturn. And it'll hit the North Node in the morning. Then it'll square Saturn. Then it'll sextile Neptune, and then the moon will enter Gemini and conjoin Venus. Great day for socializing, in my opinion. The moon conjoining the North Node is, again, the moon conjoining Uranus is like, the moon in Taurus like wants to feel comfortable, but then it hits Uranus, and the comfort is like too loud and annoying. And so the moon, it's like, have you ever tried to do something to feel good, and then you didn't get that? It's the monkey with the juice button. If you've read like, gosh, name any fucking personal development book, they bring up this analogy. I can't remember the one that's on the top of my head though. But it's like they were doing research about addiction. They put a monkey, they give him a button, and they give him juice. And they found out that like there was more of I forgot what the word is. I don't remember if it's a dopamine hit or a response in the brain. There was more of a response in the brain. So the monkey would push the button and the juice would come out, right? And of course, hitting the button would have that brain response. But they found out that the brain was more responsive if the monkey pushed the button and juice didn't come out, and that there was this like varying way of like, you know, when you click the button, you never know if you're going to get juice or not. Like, and so that created more of a response to the brain. That's why Instagram is so addicting, because you never know what you're going to get. You gotta click to find out. You got to scroll to find out. And so it makes it hyper consuming. And so this moon conjoining Uranus is like, you know, there's this destabilizing effort because you're expecting that. And so then the moon conjoins the North Node where you like aggressively go for it more. Like if the moon conjoins Uranus and you don't feel comfortable, the moon conjoining the North Node is like, okay, now I have to like hyper make myself comfortable and like hyper go after pleasure. So just be really careful about that, because the other thing is the moon conjoining the North Node and you're like, yeah, I want to feel even better. Yeah, keep fucking scrolling. Scroll all day long. But then the moon's going to square Saturn. You're going to feel, fuck, what is that word I've been thinking of lately? Rinsed. You're going to feel rinsed. You ever just scrolled too long and you're like, God, I'm a fucking animal. I'm just a piece of shit. And you just scroll all day long. That's the moon in Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius. You've had too much. You ever just been rinsed after a night of partying? It's like sun comes up. I don't know how people my age, I'm only 25. And I mean, I'm still relatively young, but I can't party till the sun rises anymore. What the fuck? But the moon, it's like, you ever party till the sun comes up? You're like, God, you just instantly regret it right when you see the sun. You're like, what the fuck why? Then your sleep schedule's all fucked. This moon's squaring Saturn. Like I would just say on Friday night, Saturday, you're going to be like the Friday night when the moon conjoins Uranus. You're like, I want to party, but it's not going to work that way. So then the moon's going to conjoin the North Node. You're like, all right, well, I still want to party, even though the universe is telling me it's not going to work. Then you're going to party and you're going to go and you're going to overdo it. And then the moon's going to square Saturn. And you're going to be like, fuck, why did I do that? The moon's going to square Saturn. It's just not going to work that way. However, what was the other thing going on Saturday? The moon does sextile Neptune, though. So you'll get your party. Oh, you'll get your party. The moon sextiling Neptune is like, it's like, have you ever like, again, partied all night long and then it's like 3 a.m. and you finally start actually having fun, but then you're like, fuck, it's fucking 3 a.m. Like the night's already fucking over. Like I think on Saturday as the moon sextiles Neptune, it's like, all right, this is looking the way I wanted it to. We finally got that because we resisted all things in the universe and just went with our egos, right? Moon conjoining the North Node, but then the moon squares Saturn. You got to know when to stop. Got to know when enough is enough. Moon in Taurus is, got to know when your plate is full. But then the moon will go into Gemini and it's going to conjoin Venus. I mean, Saturday night looks way better for partying, in my opinion, because this is Saturday. Clearly, like, this is the ascendant. So the sun is like, this is Saturday morning that this is a screenshot of. And so by the time we get to Saturday night, the moon will be in Gemini. It'll be joining Venus in Gemini. Go and meet somebody. Go and have some fun. Go talk to someone. Go ask them what their political views are. Don't do that. Ignore all that stuff and ask them how their lives are. They'll probably say that they're, struggling because inflation's so high and gas is inexpensive and there's nowhere to buy a home. Homes are too expensive. Rent's too expensive. We're going into a war. Anyway, try to have fun, though. The moon going into Gemini, conjoining Venus in Gemini is a great time to, look at all this Gemini stuff. And also, too, it's a waning moon. It's almost a dark moon at this point. We're getting towards a new moon, which is much more of a time of like settling energy out. But I think as the moon conjoins Venus in Gemini, go and stimulate yourself. Go to like a Dave & Buster's or something. Like go and play some games. Got any games? But yeah, I think as the moon goes into Gemini, I mean, I'm a broken record with this. Moon, our emotions, our feelings, what we're reflecting on. It's in Gemini. Communicate how you feel. And it's in Venus. Give someone a fucking compliment. I've been trying to be like lately because I just do everything opposite of what society is doing. Lately I've been trying to be outwardly nice to people when I'm usually really quiet to myself in public because I'm just not good. I don't always say the right things, but I've been trying to be like the other day I complimented some girl on like her shirt. Like it was like some older woman. She had like this cool ass like tie-dye wolf shirt. Like that was like, when you see like old people wear those type of shirts, it was like dope shirt. She probably haven't got a compliment like that in a long time. I don't know. Maybe she gets compliments all the time. Either way, I'm vocalizing that stuff. And I look at this Gemini stuff of like, give someone a compliment. Life is fucking shit for so many people right now. Like, this is a great time to be nice to people and to do something and to give, right? I mean, I look at this Jupiter and Aries stuff and Venus is making her way to sextile Jupiter and Aries. Be a giver. You know what I mean? Go out of your way to bless somebody, really. And I think as the moon conjoins Venus and Gemini, if you're going to go out and socialize, compliment people. Don't be and I mean, I'm talking to myself here too. Like, don't be such a hard ass like all the time. Like, I'm such an asshole sometimes. Like, it almost catches me off guard when someone's nice to me, and I'm really working on that. But I look at this moon conjoining Venus and Gemini. Of like, say how you feel. Have some fun. Then we get into Sunday, and the moon will be sextiling Jupiter, and the moon will conjoin Mercury. This is just double of that. This looks like a really fun weekend, in my opinion. It's a dark moon, so it's not necessarily like, this is like so if this was like a full moon, this is like everyone's been planning to go out for a long time. You're going to go out and it's going to be a fun time versus like, this is like one of those days where you're like, you know what, let's go out tonight. And then you end up going out and everyone else is kind of on board with that. And you kind of end up meeting people and socializing. And it's not this crazy, let's party all night long, but you meet people, you socialize, and you still get to bed on time, right? Sun's in Cancer. We're not risking our sleep. But as the moon's going to conjoin Venus. Again, that's going to be Saturday night. Then going into Sunday morning, the moon's going to conjoin Mercury and sextile Jupiter and Aries. What was the other thing? The moon sextiles Jupiter and the moon conjoins Mercury. Yeah. So as the moon sextiles Jupiter, again, as the moon's in Gemini sextiling Jupiter and Aries, something that it's so crazy how in our heads that we can get and how we might think that we suck or that we're the worst and we're these biggest self-critics, which I believe in self-criticism. I think you should be hard on yourself. Because if you just think you're the best and everything's great, like, it doesn't really go that well for you. But this moon in Gemini is like, someone might give you a compliment and they're like, hey, you're actually really good at what you do. And you're like, me? I'm good? And the moon conjoins Mercury in Gemini, you know? This is so much like communication and stimulation. And I think, again, the moon in Gemini, sextiling Jupiter and Aries is like someone being like, you're the shit, you're great, this is what we need to say. Lot of communication going on here. And then as the moon conjoins Mercury, this is a rationalization of it. Like Jupiter is the very inspiring, hopeful, grateful, larger than life planet versus Mercury is the very small, rational, spinning around in your head type planet. And as the moon conjoins Mercury, after it separates from Jupiter, there's this like, oh, wow, this person just gave me a great compliment and I feel really good. And then the moon conjoins Mercury and you're like, wow, like, thanks. Now I got all this great dopamine in my brain going around, or whatever the fucking hormones are, or whatever. All the neurochemical scientists or whatever tell me what things I should be referring to. But anyway, the moon conjoins Mercury, and I think this is just kind of like a lot of clarity. I mean, like if you look at it too, Mercury is still, it's not combust. Mercury is combust most of the time. Mercury is doing really well right here. And as the moon conjoins Mercury, just kind of like, you know, this is going to be a Sunday night before a new moon. Oh my God, I forgot to say this. This is what I'm going to be saying next week, but on my Patreon, on my live overview for the month that I do, I already did my overview for July. So if you want to know what July has in store, go and check that out. However, there's a new moon like right on the 1st of July. New moon, 1st of the month. I mean, I'm the type of person that like I need a new moon every 30 days because I need to start over every 30 days. But this is a moon conjoining Mercury. Write your lists. Figure out what's going to be new for you for the month. What do you want to accomplish? This is like logistics city. Take care of logistics on this day. Write your notes down. Write your grocery list down. Write what you need to get done. Write your plans for the rest of the 6 months. This is like the day to like really accomplish all of the logistical tasks and like write everything down, get everything out. Like, what are you prepping for this new moon? What do you want to get ready for this new moon? What do you need to like go over again? Like, oh wait, yeah, we need to take care of that. We need to take care of this. We got to do that. That's what you should be doing on Sunday. Have your party Sunday in the day. You know, maybe you go to church or maybe you don't. Maybe you're like people in Colorado and they like all go to Home Depot on Sunday. Maybe say hi to someone at a Home Depot, give them a compliment. And then when you come home and you do your little Home Depot craft and project, then write your list of what you need to get done for the rest of the week. The moon conjoining Mercury is just I think also very expressive too. You know, telling people how you feel, telling people what you think, having a discussion. God, I'm fucking sweating like crazy right now. I feel like a gross pig. Anyway. And then we get to next week. Is this button? I always forget what button it is. Next week. This is a big week next week, guys. Mars sextile Saturn. Thank God. Just anytime the malefics are working with each other in a positive way, I will take it. New moon in Cancer. I'm loving this new moon in Cancer. Venus sextiles Jupiter. Fuck yeah. Now that is like, for a lot of you that like are single and want to go out and meet people, Venus sextile Jupiter. Ugh, that is going to be a time. Mars squares Pluto. I made a comment about that in my live overview, but there was a AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She made this comment that just is so Mars square Pluto. She's like, it's so hard to be pure in a corrupt system, which is super funny because like Mars square Pluto is very like, you can fight all day long, but there's just so many, you know, corrupt things in the way that, you know, anyway. Mercury trines Saturn and Mercury squares Neptune. Pretty good, it does have its rough parts to it, and we'll talk about that. But next week actually has quite a bit going on. Nothing like bad, but very like, it's this week is really chill in my opinion. Versus next week is like, all right, we got that new moon. What are we starting? What are we going for? Plus, it's a Mars square Pluto, so it might be a little bit like rough getting on your feet and everything like that. But next week's a big week. Next week we got a lot going on. Not like big planetary transits where it's going to be like shifting your narrative, but this is like influencing in terms of getting things done, going where you need to go, getting things figured out, and just kind of getting in your rhythm. So I guess as we get into the wrong button. I guess as we get into my final thoughts, pretty chill week. Not gonna lie, pretty nice. I haven't had one of these in a while, to be honest with you, because like we go back to January, we had the Venus retrograde with the Mercury retrograde. February was the war, and we have I was like Venus being besieged. Then we had March, which was just all of the Pisces stuff, which is like, that's fine, that's good, but when you get Mercury and Pisces, just too much Pisces. Then you get May, and it's like eclipse season, and Mars and Jupiter, and then Saturn retrograde. And then we finally get to this moment in June where it's like, you can just relax for a minute, soak in the sun. The days are so long. Enjoy your day. Enjoy who you're around. Make sure you're around the right people. And so that's what I have to say for you guys this week. So anyway, with that being said, I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'll be seeing you next week.